config and how that works. So here, finally, the Q20 SBC configuration. So logically, the first thing you do is you set up a VNet. What VNets are basically just plumbing for the SBC. You're defining the interfaces that are going to be used for the roles and what gateways they're going to use to get off their subnets. Also, if there's going to be a VLAN tag associated with it, you would apply that to the VNet. Otherwise, everything just goes out untagged. So initially, we create a peer and a core side of the VNets. So realms, the realm concept on us is slightly different than the realm concept on some other SBCs. The realm concept directly attaches to the signaling IP address. So anything that comes into that IP address in our world is coming in on that realm.
That's like our SIP interface today.
Exactly. Yep. That's a one-to-one match, or the closest one-to-one match that there is there. On a realm, you can apply loads of different policies. I think there's probably 250 different options that you can apply in a realm. Everything has a default setting. The only ones that you need to modify for your solution are here. So when you create the peer Comcast realm, you're going to set your IMR and EMR to always on, and that is your media routing.
The system has detected that a minimum number of lines are connected to this conference. Do you want to continue your meeting?
Did we even have
Press
that?
1 to
It must have been
confirm.
from
It's
Earlier.
from James and
So the EMR and IMR, those are your media routing attributes. EMR is saying, hey, if the two endpoints are in different realms, how do I want to handle it? If IMR is, hey, if the two endpoints are sitting inside the same realm, how do I want to handle media routing? So we're setting it to always on. Always on will trump an endpoint setting or everything else. And then since your deployment, every call gets media routed, we're going to use the always on feature. The RSA address, so this is where you'll actually put in the RSA of the signaling realm itself, along with the subnet mask. Media pool, we're setting it to media pool 1. This maps back directly to the mDevices file that we were looking at here. So you'll see that pool ID 1 is the public media pool. So that's where that maps. And then in public media pool 1, it will pull from these resources to assign, to adjust the things. And I believe this needs to be updated. If I remember right, I want to say Scott said you guys only do media routing from like 19,999 to 30,000 or something, or do you know the ports that you use for whenever you want to do media?
10,000 to
10,000.
29.
Is that it?
99. Yeah.
Do you know what they have? Is that what they have in production?
I think it was till 30,000 days. 32 hours.
$10,000 to $29.99. So if I don't do it now, I may not get done. So. Right. So then you have to put it also in a VNet. So every realm needs to be in a VNet, with the exception of this.
You say with the exception
Of the PDCS latest realm, because it's a special case realm. So what this does is now I say, okay, because my VNet is peer, I'm going to take this IP address and this subnet mask, and I'm going to go and I'm going to put it on ETH2 in this VLAN, and it's going to use this gateway. Right? So if I were to go back and do ifconfig on the Linux box, I would see on ETH2 that this IP address actually exists. So that's how that all maps. So you won't see anything plumbed until you create the VNet, create the realm, and then attach the realm to the VNet. Then we know we can go and actually plumb the IP address directly into the system and where it goes. Core Comcast is the same, except to be an IP and a mask and everything, unique to that. And it's going to use Media Pool 2. The PDCS latest realm. So this is created for when we fork the PDCS latest media, it actually gets forked back to the SBC, and then it goes out to the DF from there. When it comes in from the media card, it's still in RTP format, and then it gets converted to the PCLI format inside of the SBC itself, and then out from the SBC. So that's what this realm is for. So whatever IP this is in that mask, you'll see that's the interface that's talking to the DF and actually sending the intercepted calls. All right, any questions on realms or VNets? Okay, so codec profiles. So here you're going to see us adding a codec profile for EVRCB. You add the codec profile. Everything that we normally do, we add an object, then we edit an object. So you'll see like in realm, it's CLI realm add, and then you edit that realm and you put your options in afterwards. So here we're going to add a codec profile, and we're going to call it CBC EVRCB, and we're going to say add telephony event 101, because we know coming in from the core, we're not going to be offered 2833. We're also going to say we're going to prefer EVRCB and RTP telephony event, and then we're going to prohibit all else. So now when I go and apply this codec profile onto my Verizon endpoint, I'm going to add endpoint 101, or I'm going to add payload type 101 into it. I'm going to put EVRCB codec in it as well. I'm prohibiting everything else, so then it gets removed. It'll remove any other codecs in the offer that's going out.
And this is done on the ingress.
You can do it either. I mean, yes. We're setting up this codec profile to affect the egress side of calls. Here's a wholesale codec profile. I just gave 3 samples in here. None of them are necessarily gospel on how you have to do anything. It's just kind of capturing how we've done some stuff in the lab. I think the best way to learn with it is kind of by example. Say, hey, Alan, I want to set a codec profile up to do it. And either you guys try it and set it up and see what happens, or help me set this up and do it. There's some other flags when it comes to codec profiles, like how many offers do I want to put on there? You can say, hey, you only put 1 offer in, and then you could list 20 different codecs, and in the order that you list them would be the preferred method that you want, and you just offer 1 of those codecs. We have an idea that's called drop implied. So basically, if I'm saying, that's basically prohibiting what it does is, if I don't explicitly state it, it won't go in there. So on an egress side of the codec profile, let's say I get offered 711 and 729, and then on the egress side, I have a prefer 726. When I send that out, if I don't have drop implied, it's going to send out 711, 729, and 726, because I've added 726 to it. So there's lots of different ways to kind of solve your codec needs, and then once we know exactly what they are and how you want to do them, I can show you how to set them up. So, for example, here's a 711 one that's basically the same. We're going to prefer 711 ULAW and prohibit all else. By not adding the RTP telephony event in it, it's basically stripping it out. You can also prohibit RTV telephony event 101 as well, and that would strip it out as well too. So here we're adjusting the service set. So the service set is basically like a set of firewall rules. If you're to look on the SBC itself. Here you're going to see different profiles. So you can see the default signaling set, what UDP ports we'll listen on, what TCP ports we're going to listen on, and everything else. So here we're set up for H323, 5060, and then now we have 20,000. So 20,000 is where we listen for the PDCS layers realm to basically forward those calls out. So everything comes from the media card to us on port 20,000, and then we forward it out for PDCS layers.
So question, that port, the 20,000, would it have to be removed from like higher up? I guess that was in somewhere. I want to say RAM, I don't know if it was there. Where you define our media ports, where we say 10,000 through 29,999.
Yeah.
Do you have to remove the 20,000 from there? Should it?
No, because we have a reserved IP address for PDCS layers. So
So it's on its own. Okay.
That's right. So in the configuration for PDCS layers, which is right down here, the waffle intercept, you actually end up using port sending from 21330 and to port 20,000 of the SBC right there.
It's on its own IP, so
That's
it's
right.
not a conflict.
So what we're doing here is we're adding this 20,000 in so that the LI stuff works correctly. So that's the command to do that. And then calling plans. So for all the requirements that came in around, hey, it's going to come in +1, we need to strip the +1 and go up to the redirect server as 10 digits, and then when it comes back down, we'll forward it out back as E164. That's where all these calling plans work. So our calling plans are basically identifying links of, hey, if it's 10 digits long, add a +1 to it, or if it's 12 digits long and it begins with +1, take it out, right? So that's what these calling plans are basically doing. We have ANI and DNIS-based calling plans. DNIS-based calling plans will affect the to header and the request URI, the phone number there. The ANI-based calling plans will affect the contact, P-asserted IDs, the from headers, exactly. Now, with us, what we do is we create calling routes. What a calling route is the actual meat of something. A calling plan is just a container that you put lots of calling routes into. So you create all the calling routes that you want, you combine them into a single calling plan, and then you place that calling plan on an endpoint. The reason it's done this way is because you can't apply calling routes directly to an endpoint, and you can only place one calling plan on it. So you just take the combination of what you want, you put it all into this folder called a calling plan, and then you can apply that calling plan directly to the endpoint. So we also have the concept of reject routes. So where we're creating normal calling plan routes here, here's where you're creating reject type routes. So here we're going to say, create one called reject me. I'm going to say anything that comes in from 900. So it's basically an ANI-based calling plan. Anything that's coming from 900 numbers that are 10 digits long, reject the call. So now I bind this calling route called reject me to a plan called reject me, and then I can place that on an endpoint. Or I can include this calling route into whatever, all the other calling plans that I had from before.
I think one thing, can we start with just the logical entities on the SPC, like the IEdges? Whenever you say, most of these guys doesn't have doesn't know what you. Sometimes when you say calling paths are applied to an endpoint.
Good point.
Nobody knows that what is an endpoint. So
Yeah, no, that's
so
a good point.
if it is first we have a picture of how SBC looks like, at least the logical endpoints like IEdges, IEdge groups.
You're saying a diagram on the whiteboard?
A small diagram on the whiteboard.
Look at
So that they can visualize whenever you tell about all these things, that how it is routed.
Sure. Okay.
Send that mail, right? That I'll give you some. That's okay.
I've done enough damage in the last 2 days. They've been forced to attend the range I haven't started. So I will only started. I have shit down for the bridge and mistake in the level.
Oh yeah, actually.
Everyone started saying you should open in person. I will do that.
don't use speed.